So Luton beat Peterborough 2-0 away from home in our first away game of the season. In today's video, I'm going to give you 5 things which we learned from the game. Before I do, smash the like button on today's video. Let me know what you learned from the game against Peterborough down in the video comments. And if you are new to my channel, please subscribe. I make Luton and EFL content. If you are new to these types of videos, essentially I give you 5 talking points from the game and we kind of dissect these talking points in a little bit more detail. So the first talking point is Walters, and lots of talk online, lots of moans in the stands because his performance wasn't the best. And that's just being honest. The first half performance, wasn't great from him. According to Matt Bloomfield in the interview after the game, he had a groin injury and needed to come off at half time. Regardless if he was injured or not, I would have just taken him off because I don't think he was quite at the level which we needed him to be. Walters is a young prospect, and when you sign these prospects, a couple of things can happen. The first thing that can happen is you sign them and they hit the ground running and they become this unbelievable player. You sell them on for big money and they go on to have a very good career at a certain level. So that's the first option. The second option that can happen is it takes time. We have to give some patience. They learn. It might take 1 or 2 seasons, but then they show what they can actually do. Or the third option is they don't quite live up to the expectation. They eventually find their level, whether it's at the current level you are at, or they might drop down the divisions. That's what happens to young players. Of course, everyone wants young players to basically hit the ground running and basically guarantee themselves a first team spot every single week. And I want to give James Justin as like the example. Not everyone can be a James Justin where they get given that first team opportunity and you basically can't drop them. Not everyone can do that, and the players that do obviously cement a first team spot, they go on to have good careers like James Justin has done. Whereas with Walters, I think we are looking at more option 2. We've got to give him time. We've got to be patient with him. He obviously lacks game experience, and you can tell the physical side of League One I think has impacted him, and without that game experience he hasn't learnt how to use his body effectively. I think with young players, yes, when you are not physically at it, you've got to use your body a certain way, and I just don't think he's doing that. I also think when he has the ball, technically, he's not quite there yet. He needs to be guided a bit. And what I don't think helps is Chris Makosso is the one next to him. And Chris Makosso is young himself. He's also a young, hungry player who might go on to have a good career. And at this moment in time, he's hit the ground running, but he also has experienced centre-backs next to him to help guide him, whether that's Andersen or McGuinness. So I don't think the combination down on the right-hand side is helping Walters. So I do think that also has an impact. And I just want to bring back James Justin again. You think when he broke into the first team, who did he have as the left centre-back or as the right centre-back? He had Sonny Bradley, who was experienced, Annan Sheehan, who was experienced, and Matty Pearson, who was also experienced. So Walters doesn't have that type of character next to him to help guide him through a game. So it makes it even more difficult. I'm not saying it's an excuse, but I do think when you play alongside someone more experienced, it can help. And as someone who's also played football, I prefer someone talking to me throughout the game. So it puts me in the right places at the right time, and I have more confidence in myself. So overall, I think we're going to have to be patient with Walters. I don't think loaning him out is the correct decision. We also need him in the team because we don't have a right wing back. Isaiah Jones is obviously out for a couple of months, so we need him to play. The alternative is to play the West Ham lad, Kadowa, in that right wing back spot, which we might see in the away game in the Cup against Coventry. So I think Walters needs to stay because we need him in the team as cover. But as we can already tell, we might have to be patient with him because he's still got lots to learn. So moving on to the second thing which we learned from the game against Peterborough, and that is Jerry Yates, of course, needs a little bit more time. He does lack that match sharpness. I was very surprised to see him start. Matt Bloomfield definitely fooled me. I was expecting more of a cameo off the bench, but he got 60 to 70 minutes against Peterborough, which was good. I do expect him to play against Coventry and also play against Bradford next week. He gives me Danny Hilton vibes. That's what I get for him. Not James Collins, but Danny Hilton. He does get himself about on the pitch. He did do a lot of pressing, but unfortunately he wasn't able to get into the game, especially in the first half, because we weren't really moving the ball about. So he did find it hard to get onto the ball. In the second half, he did have a lot more joy, but by the time he was getting onto the ball in the second half, he was, lacking that match sharpness and ended up coming off. But I do think he will get better as we play more games. What I did really like was how he was telling players how he wanted the ball and where he wanted the ball. So just noticing just one or two things just when watching him, his body language and so on. I also think as well he would have scored the opportunity in the first half. So if you remember, Chris McCosta had a shot and it went way over the bar from the corner. Jerry Yates was pretty much unmarked right next to him. And if that was Jerry Yates, I feel like that would have been on target and also a goal. So he did get himself in the right place. He didn't have anything else to do apart from that. But I do think he will get better as we play more games. But of course, he's giving me right now Danny Hilton vibes. That's what I get from him. But I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do in a Luton shirt. And moving on to the third thing which we learnt from the game. And it's another player-focused point. And that is Andersen is doing so well. Now, yes, he's had a injury hit, Luton Town career, which has been unfortunate because when we did sign him, Barnsley fans were talking so highly of him that he's this really good centre-back. But we just haven't seen it, and that's because of the injuries. He scored in the Premier League, but then from that moment onwards, it just has been non-existent with him. Even in the Championship last year, when he did get thrown in, he didn't look like he was on the same level as the other players. But this time round in a pre-season that he hasn't really suffered any injuries, he's been fully fit, he's been putting in really good performances. And if I'm being honest with you, people talk about McGuinness, when he's fully fit, he's going to get straight into the starting 11. Not if Andersen keeps performing the way he's performing. He's performing so well. Of course, he can work on his passing ability. I do think, especially how we're trying to build up from the back, which I will talk about in a second. But overall, he's defending very well. Our goalkeeper's had 2 shots on target to save in 2 games. That for me is showing a very good, solid defensive line. He's winning a lot of aerial battles. He's doing a lot of recovery runs as well. So if he doesn't win the initial first ball, he's recovering back. And then the goal yesterday against Peterborough, he wanted to win that ball more than the Peterborough player. Watch that goal back. He is fighting to win that ball. He gets there first and he deserves the goal on the back of the 2 fantastic performances. So long may this continue. If he carries this on, you can't drop him. You simply cannot drop Andersen. So I'm really enjoying seeing this and I'm glad that we've managed to find his level. He's managing to keep himself fit. Long may this continue. Moving on to my 4th point in today's video, and that's the system. Now, lots of people are talking about, especially at half-time in yesterday's game and also throughout the first half, and I've also seen a couple of comments online, and they're saying about how we need to just get rid of the 5 at the back system, go to a back 4, and get rid of the wing-backs, essentially, because we don't have the personnel for it. Now, in the second half, you noticed the system work, and we played the same way. For me, we didn't change the formation in the second half. Basically, because we had possession and we were turning over the ball a lot more in the second half, Ali was playing further forward because we were constantly attacking, basically. And Naismith was basically the cover in that left side of the pitch role. Ali was playing as the left wing back until he got moved to being a striker. But because we have possession, Ali's told to go forward to provide a attacking threat, to provide an option. So we were still playing the same formation. It's just when we have possession, our wing backs are told to push forward, and Ali was the wing back in that case. So in the second half, my point is, what I'm trying to eventually make is, we proved it can work when you don't have the correct personnel. You've got to move the ball quickly. You've got to use the wide players in the right areas at the right time. You've got to show some movement, some urgency. And you've got to win the ball high and turn over the ball as frequently as possible. And as you saw in the second half, it does actually work. But in the first half, the problem was we wasn't moving the ball quickly enough. We were struggling to get the ball into the midfield so they can get the ball to the attackers. And when we couldn't do the easy ball, we were resulting into doing long balls out wide, and you can't always do the safe option. So the first half we performed like that because the players weren't doing what they needed to do. What they should have done was how they performed in the second half. Now, I do agree, when we do have the right personnel, it will look even better. So when Cohen Bramall is fully fit and up to match sharpness, the left wing back spot will look a lot more better because he will know how to do that role properly. The same when Isaiah Jones comes back into the side because he's more experienced than Walters. It will look a lot better. Of course it will. But my point is, it does work when you actually use it correctly. It can be effective like it was in the second half against Peterborough. But with, of course, at the moment, in 3 halves of football, haven't seen it used correctly because we're not moving the ball with urgency, we're not showing any movement, we're doing the safe option all the time in the pass. So when you do the other stuff correct, the system will work. And that goes with any formation, even if it's a back 4, even if you want to play 3 or 6 defenders, whatever you want to do, you've got to show some urgency, you've got to show some movement, otherwise no system will work. So my point is, the system can work when you use it correctly. And moving on to point number 5. Now, it does kind of reflect back to point number 4 in terms of the system. Now, there's lots of talk online about needing a creative midfielder, someone that can make stuff happen, create the chances. My issue is, I don't think if we had this creative midfielder play yesterday against Peterborough, I think that player struggles to get the ball. This is the problem. We're struggling to get the ball into the midfield so the midfield can get the ball to the attackers. Out of all of our players that started the game against Peterborough, Baptiste had the best passing success rate. He had over 80%, and with that passing success rate, he was taking risks. He was getting onto the ball and moving it, but we were struggling to give him the ball. That's the problem. I think we need to sign a player that's comfortable in receiving the ball in a defensive position, and then they can progress it to the midfield and to the attackers. A bit like what Lokonga was doing in the Premier League. He was receiving the ball off the defenders and then he gave it to Ross Barkley. We kind of need something like that. I just feel like if we get this creative midfielder, which people want, how is that person going to get the ball? Because they can't make stuff happen if they don't receive it. We don't want creative midfielders dropping deep to receive the ball and then try and make something happen from deep. We want them further up the pitch as possible because that's when the creativity can happen and that's when we can actually benefit from that creativity, not from deep. Now, Walsh, for me, is very comfortable at receiving the ball from deep and playing passes. But can you get Walsh and Baptiste to work? Can that partnership work? Can Baptiste, Walsh and also Saville work as a midfield 3? It's about getting the right midfield. I think Bloomfield is going to have to trial and error a lot of midfielders. For me, it's about finding the right midfield. Whether or not Saville can receive the ball from deep and then start playing is a different question altogether. I think we need him to do that role, or we need to sign someone to do it. That's my issue. That's how I see it right now. But of course, as we saw in the second half against Peterborough, the system can work if you do the basics right and win the ball up high, move the ball with urgency, as we learn. Baptiste, I thought, done really well in the midfield, so I thought it was important to highlight. But I think we need someone to be comfortable at receiving the ball from deep and then be able to give it to the players that can take these risky passes. Because Walsh and Baptiste, they can do it. Clark can also has good passing ability and can create chances. So we just need to try and get the ball to those players. And that might also mean as well, the defenders which we have in our team, maybe not playing the safe pass all the time, maybe take a risk. I know with playing out from the back, you don't want to do a sloppy pass so then it leads to a goal. But at times, you're going to have to take the risk. And when we start playing against these more tougher teams in League One, we're going to have to take more risk. Bradford's going to be our biggest test so far in the league. They're not going to be easy. They're going to work man to man. They are structured. They are organised, a bit like Wimbledon. And they also show a bit of attacking quality as well going forward. So man for man, we need to be on it. So that is the end of today's video. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Make sure you smash the like button on today's video if you did. Let me know your thoughts and feelings down in the video comments. It got a bit too tactical, these videos. I don't like going into tactics because I think it's how you interpret certain playing styles and certain methods and so on. But for me, I'm more like to keep it basic and not too tactical, as I'm not a tactical analysis. But yeah, I just think we're lacking something, but I can't quite put my head and finger on it because it could be one thing, but it might be another as well. But let me know what you think down in the video comments. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. I make Luton and EFL content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.